You're listening to The Bounding Box, where we talk about web development, geo development, and everything in between.
All right, welcome to the Bounding Box. Today I got a great guest here, someone that I've known for a long time. We've touched base quite a bit in the past. Um, Nick Franchino, please tell us who you are, what you do, what's your problem?
Yeah, how you doing? Thank you for having me. My name is Nick Franchino. I am the GIS manager for LA County Planning. We are the GIS department. Actually, we're the planning department for the unincorporated areas of LA County. People don't understand the difference sometimes between unincorporated areas and cities. So we are all the places that aren't cities. LA County has 88 cities. So that's kind of this whole jurisdiction-y kind of deal. And I've been here for about 30 years, long time GIS guy. And the issue right now, or the part is about LA28 and the Olympics coming, and really not being any GIS resources or maps out there. So I just saw that, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna create some maps and some layers for it." And I started with a story map.
Nice, yeah. The I saw your story map. I got a chance to see Nick present at Cal GIS, which just happened to be over here in Redlands. I flashed my Esri badge, just kind of walked right in. No, did have to contact people to get in there, but it's really nice session to check out. There was a lot of moving pieces here, right? And I haven't been involved in county level GIS in quite a while, but seeing you and a couple of the other presenters talking about managing all these different pieces of data have to come in, it just brought I don't know flashbacks to having to try to coordinate all that. Tell us a little bit about how it is working with that amount of data and from different sources as well. That's a big issue as well. You've got right.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So LA County is big. So, and again, there's, people listening, oh, well, that's the state government and the federal government. Sure, those are all big too. So it's like that. But what we say is, if we can do it here, you can pretty much do it anywhere. Because there's 88 cities, everybody, kind of does it differently. And so one of our things was, I'm the planning department for the unincorporated areas. So we deal with these areas that don't have cities. So that's East LA, that's Lenox and Del Air. So what that does is we got really good at like jurisdiction. Like that matters. If you come in to us or email us that you have a problem with your property, you want to build something, the first thing we do is check, are you in unincorporated areas or not? So that's kind of one of the first things there. And then because there's 88 cities in the county, and the counties, like, we're the most populous county in the United States. We're not the biggest. San Bernardino is the biggest county, but we're the most populous. So we have the most people, urban. So it's got all the problems and all the issues. So what we've been good at is working together. So there's we have a steering committee, and we created a strategic plan, like 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And then we kind of keep working on that. So is it perfect? No. I mean, there's plenty of cities that still don't really talk with us or work with us, but for a lot of it, there is this cooperation. And so then we put our open data out there for everybody. We make lots of apps that are available, of course, using REST services and apps from Esri. I mean, we're Esri customer 20. We've been doing this. My boss, was doing this with Jack way back in the days. And so the county is customer 20. We have, parcels and roads and aerial imagery. So we do a lot with aerial imagery in our county because aerial imagery doesn't really stop at the city boundary. And so we created an imagery consortium way back in 2006. And, that's somewhere where that's where we do work and collaborate with cities like Los Angeles and Pasadena, Glendale, Long Beach, all the big cities and lots of the little cities, but not every city. So that kind of keeps us motivated. That's why we're always doing more. And if you wanted to find out more about our imagery program, it's easy. LARIAC, LARIAC, the Los Angeles Region Imagery Acquisition Consortium. That sounded like a commercial. So we'll see if that makes it in.
Yeah, the I remember working at county, and we'd have to. We were in part. I worked at sanitation districts, and we were part of the whole LARIAC program. But we'd have to go pick up a hard drive from somebody,
Yeah.
take it back to the office, and then we'd hear from our IT group about how this could require 3 times the amount of storage space just to back this stuff up. And
Yes.
yeah, storage is
Yeah.
always an issue, but
Yeah.
it's great data. It's super
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to one of my early tasks in GIS was aligning parcel data that we had to some of the imagery data, just to kind
Okay.
of verify things and whatnot. And it
Yeah.
was a great resource.
Yeah. And so here's what. So that's how it started. So I remember I used to have to go to people's machine and install the electronic field study app, which was pictometry, now Eagle Views imagery. And I used to have to be the guy. I remember going to some of the cities and literally installing software and a hard drive, right, that we would bring, and that was it. Now everything is services based. Everything you can get in a browser. And we were doing that back in the days with we had before they called them widgets, but we had little apps that would link to another app. We could bring up stuff, but yes, it's got better. And then we were giving hard drives to cities, little hard drives, but we were getting servers. So we had our own servers just for the imagery, the LiDAR data. And actually, in 2006, we didn't even get the LiDAR data because it was too big to fit on any servers. So we only took delivery of a DEM, a DSM, and a DTM, but never got the point cloud data. Nobody knew how to. This is 2006, 2007. You just didn't work with LiDAR. And now with the cloud, with, data is just kind of ubiquitous. You just kind of get it, and you obviously people do, and they work on that, but it's a lot easier now. And so because we have all these imagery sets, we have imagery from the project before LARIAC, '03, then LARIAC is '06, then we went '08, and then we went every 3 years, 11, 14, 17, 20, 23, and they're flying, they just flying in January to get us LARIAC 8 imagery. So that imagery can help you with all your data sets if you want to check it, because you can say, and again, surveyors and stuff will talk about accuracy of parcels, and then they got to sign off on the accuracy of the imagery. All that is fine. But if you have all these imagery sets over the years, what we found is it's probably in the right place, and you can adjust things to the other place. Not survey grade, but it works really well for a myriad of applications.
Oh, yeah, even just doing like was it looking for um, wetlands and stuff like that and
Yeah.
everything. I mean that was really great for us too. That was a
Yeah,
huge deal.
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the LA28 stuff and
Sure.
everything involved there. One of the things that stood out to me was the fact that the transportation needs and all that data coming in, and you mentioned I think that they're bringing in buses uh, to LA just for transportation wise.
Oh yeah. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going on, and this is where we talk about jurisdiction. This is why I think that I was kind of the right person to help with this, because I jurisdiction is so important to me. So for example, I'll get to transportation in a second, but just the example of Los Angeles has 21 events over 6 zones, and that doesn't include the football tournament that just dropped the other day. So now we're going to have it in 6 more cities, which is great. Doesn't affect LA County anymore. San Diego, Columbus, New York, Nashville. So that's fine. But LA City is going to have 21 other events. Long Beach is going to have 11. Carson's going to have 5. Inglewood 2. The unincorporated areas are going to have 2. Oklahoma City. So now, you know what? Now Oklahoma City doesn't feel so far away because you got New York and Nashville in the mix. So that kind of stuff is going to matter. But in LA County, if we talk about transportation and any of these places, any venue you have, they're used to kind of transportation. How do you get to the event? Although usually you would drive. People drive to SoFi in LA for that event. There's a big parking lot. The parking lot's going to be used differently, most likely, for the Olympics. So there you're going to have to go somewhere else, and they're going to shuttle you in. That's why they need those buses. And that's where they talk about a car-free games. They used to. It's not a car-free games. It's a cars-free games at the venue. Uber and Lyft will take you there, but they're going to take you not to the stadiums or the event sites. They're going to take you to a drop-off location. And so they're going to have to put maps and tell people where that is. And because the Uber drivers have to go there, the shuttles themselves for the Olympics, that's pretty straightforward. UCLA is hosting the athlete village. USC is the media village. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going from those locations. So the transportation, so think about it. Metro, Metrolink, you have about 50 bus agencies. Culver City has their bus, right? Santa Monica. So even if Santa Monica, for example, doesn't have any venues, but people are going to go to Santa Monica, they're going to have watch parties, probably a fan zone. So transportation is going to be a big thing. And then the other part that they're doing is like some of the carpool lanes are going to go away and be what's called the games route network. So temporarily, they're not going to be carpool lanes, or maybe in the middle of the night they will be, but during the games and during the hours, they're going to be the games route network, and they're going to put signage up, and maybe they're going to paint the things a different color like they did in Paris. So that's kind of the idea. And so my thing was, if you were Metrolink Metro, a bus agency, a city, a nonprofit supporting the games, you need to know where the venues are. You needed to know where that games route network was going to be, and it just wasn't there. There was LA28's website with the name of a venue and the zone, and literally that was it. There was no map until January 12th of this year.
Oh, wow.
So about a year and a half of even since Paris, and there was no map of where things are going to be. And that's where I said, hey, you know what? Let me just create some stuff. And I had an Esri personal account. I started on my own kind of deal, and I just said, hey, I'm going to make a story map first. And I just started, because the story map is just it's a Word document with a nice table of contents, and then you can integrate and include. So I just put hyperlinks and link to all the stuff that existed before I started messing with it, and then I just kept kind of adding on to it because I'm still intrigued about digital twins. LA County has a lot of data, so I have a section on open data. Because here's the other thing: if you are the organizing committee or nonprofit or one of these transportation agencies, why would you go get new imagery of a venue or to see what's on the ground when LA County has LARIAC and has this good imagery program? Just work with us. It's already, you might already be a member if you're Metro in the city of LA and Long Beach, no problem. So make sure they know. And then also parcels, streets, addresses, all the other data that we have. So we want to make sure they have it. Oh, and if we have really, really good imagery, maybe we buy up a little bit from our LARIAC contract. That's the best info you can have to make a really good digital twin. So digital twins, you're going to see, I don't know how much is going to be on NBC's broadcast. Last time for Paris, they used Cesium and Google Earth. And then they used a company called they did. And then there was another company called OnePlan. And I know they're now an Esri partner. And OnePlan does event planning software, 3D digital twins. And they did a lot for Paris. And they're doing it for Milan Cortina. But I don't know if we're going to see it as a user. But we'll probably see NBC's flyovers kind of telling you where Milan is versus Cortina, which is in the Dolomites. And, they're going to probably have some cool flyovers and 3Ds of the mountains, but actual like real data for people planning, security, infrastructure, operations, they're going to need a digital twin. And I just wanted to make sure that people knew that there was data here and work with LA County. Maybe there's a tech, this is what we said at the end of CalGIS too. Maybe there's a technology legacy related to these games of everybody working together. Maybe we can make a digital twin of this region and have it going forward after LA28.
Yeah, exactly. The need for something like that for this huge event coming up. I mean, that doesn't just go away once the event's over, right? I mean, all the people that get involved, the data that gets created, that just is going to live on even after that event goes. And it's really interesting. I just think the transportation part's really interesting because people that are used to their normal routes, or even if you use like Google Maps to say, get me from here to there, those aren't going to apply during the event. That's all going to change and switch up. It's all just real-time management of all those moving people and cars. I thought that was kind of cool coming out of it. The your story map is really neat. And what I thought was really cool about that too is that you even kept some historical aspects of the story map in there, just noting that this this is what came out here, no longer applies anymore. Look at this section over here, and it really lays out a great narrative for um, how the event's going to progress and what's coming up and everything. I thought that was really cool.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted it. Again, what I said, I think, of my thing, and what I tell people, it was the story map started as kind of a stream of consciousness. I literally was watching the Olympics a little bit. The Paris Olympics are on. I don't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday. I have Fridays off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I literally just said, okay, so create a story map and just said, okay, well, what do I want to see? Okay, let's link to the LA28 website. All right, what graphic can I put? Okay, I'll put their logo. They got a million logos. I'll just put one of those there. I'll link to the website. I'll link to this. Well, let me see what Paris has. Okay, I'll link to Paris's stuff. That's when I found out about their digital twins and one plan. I went, okay, that's cool. And then I went, well, what did they have in 84? And so I found the map that had Sam the Eagle, who was our 84 mascot. And to be honest, I was 12 years old. I lived in San Diego at the time. And so my Olympic stuff was going to McDonald's and winning the prizes that they had. If you could get a game piece. This is like before Monopoly. They did an Olympics thing, and if you bought a Big Mac, they gave you a little ticket, and then it said, okay, diving. So if the diving guy got a gold medal, which he did, that was Greg Louganis, you got a Big Mac. And then you didn't have to, you could actually go there and get a game card, even if you didn't buy a Big Mac, a
Oh, wow,
fry,
okay.
or a Coke. And so that summer, me and my cousin went there almost every day, got a lot of food, and it was fun. That was my Olympic thing because the Russians boycotted, and we did a lot. So, but anyway, on my story map, I put the map that they had with the Eagle guy and showed kind of where it was. And it's interesting because obviously you wouldn't navigate from that map, but historically it's really cool. I also put the 1932 Olympic link, just whatever. Somebody made a website to kind of document it. And I said, you know what, let's put that there. And I even put the presentation that Eric Garcetti, the mayor at the time, gave to the Olympic Committee, just again to talk up and to see now the visuals of what they proposed and what is happening. Because at the time, here's a little note too. I live in the San Fernando Valley, and the San Fernando Valley, the Olympics were in 1932 and 1984, but they never had any events in the San Fernando Valley. They even had events, in other counties, like in San Diego County, they had equestrian. In Ventura County, they had one of the rowing events. So they've had stuff in different regions, but never in the San Fernando Valley in the city of LA. So this time they're going to, and they were going to do archery and they were going to do something else. We actually have an archery range there. They weren't going to use that anyway, but they're not. They switched it up. And so they're going to do BMX, they're going to do skateboarding. And it's interesting that they picked those two. Skateboarding and BMX, like in the 80s and 90s, it was really big, or the 70s, it was really big in the San Fernando Valley. Just like the car culture, so was the skateboarding. I mean, Fast Times at Ridgemont High is it Sherman Oaks was the mall they were at, right? So BMX skateboarding makes sense there. Then they switched it up and said, hey, we'll put 3-on-3 basketball there. And 3-on-3 basketball is only a half court plus fans. So they're going to have to build a temporary building somewhere there. So right now, I don't know where that is. I just put a dot, and eventually, when they kind of scope it out, we'll know a little bit more about where it is. But that was my concept. Was first was stream of consciousness, and then I kind of organized it, sports and venues, and then the schedule came out. I'll talk a little more about the schedule in a little bit. Then I did the transportation and communities, how nonprofits could use it. There, I also mentioned the hospitality houses. Kind of, we'll talk about that. And then I have the history, the newsroom, and the newsroom. Like if you go to the newsroom on LA28 website, it's everything they're doing from sponsorships to tickets. That's fine. Their big thing is selling tickets, selling merch, and getting people to volunteer. Those are the three big things right now. and that's fine. They're doing it. They're a nonprofit trying to break even or make profit. So they're doing that. And again, my mapping it and the story map was to support the people because they're still hiring people. They have all these different groups. They only have a few geospatial professionals, from what I'm told, that are doing stuff. And then you have a whole bunch of partners and vendors, and they'll probably hire a whole bunch of people. But in the meantime, hey, let's just put this out there and help people at least know where stuff is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought the fan zones were really cool. People, that's really great for people to look up. After
Yeah.
I heard about it, I looked up where some of the proposed ones were going to be, like out my way anyway. I guess supposed to be one in Ontario. I guess it's still in the progress. But the plan for that is that it should be done by the end of 2027. That park area they're doing, and there'll be a
Okay.
fan zone for 28. And I thought that was really cool. If I hadn't seen the presentation, I wouldn't even have known about it.
Yeah.
So it'd be pretty cool if people get to that point. They can find these local fan zones for them. They can just go and have a good time watching games and stuff.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. There's a little bit people ask me, "Hey Nick, what are you doing for the World Cup? Did you make a map or do stuff for the World Cup?" And basically what I told people was, you know, the Olympics is way more than the World Cup in terms of one region and all the events that there are. There's so many more sports, so many more people, so much more. The World Cup itself and soccer, I love soccer, no problem. I married a Peruvian woman and their family, we love soccer. But that World Cup tournament is going to be played at football stadiums, and then you're going to have some fan zones. It's not at the same, it's obviously like the prices are crazy and whatever. Yeah, because it's one tournament. The Olympics are going to have the soccer tournament. Oh, men's and women. Oh, and baseball and 50 other sports, right? So it's one of those things. But they asked me, and so they started to list where the fan zones are going to be for like the World Cup. That's great, and that's going to be good. Hopefully, the people will be able to find those. You're going to see them on the news. That's not my, I'll let somebody else map it. And actually, some student came up to me during Cal GIS and said, "Hey, what are you doing on the World Cup or whatever? Because I want to do stuff with that." So I'm kind of helping him and say, "Okay, make a story map, right? List where they're at, put them on a map. It's so easy. You like, I could do it. I just don't I just let somebody else do it." And so that's kind of been my thing, is I'm going to stick to kind of the Olympics. I'm a real big Olympics fan. And then but all these other things, even like the Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl's this weekend in Santa Clara. What do they have? They have a media village, they have a game, and they have some fan zones. It's really not anywhere near the level of what the Olympics are. So to get back to like the fan zones for the Olympics, right now it's all in development, right? So some cities are working on it. So eventually I'll probably have another section, or I'll make another map, right, with a layer that has the fan zones. Hospitality houses is a layer that I've created. I have it in my build your map. I don't have it in the dashboard. The dashboard for the schedules is really, the schedule is the key part of it, because that fundamentally, like, for planning, if I'm the city of industry, they're going to do mountain biking. It's only 2 days. So it's not the first day of the Olympics, it's not the last day of the Olympics, but it's 2 days in the middle somewhere. So if you are worried about traffic and all the things that go along with that for mountain biking, or if you want, and they didn't build it yet, that's one of those where they're going to build this little track and stuff. It's a temporary venue, and it's next to a couple of golf courses. They have a parking lot for a staging area, but it's only 2 days. Dodger Stadium is only going to be used 6 days. People don't understand that. But the basketball Intuit Dome, every day, except for like one, right? Because you have a men's and women's, and they have a bigger tournament. So it's all about like how big each sport is. And every sport has their federation. That's how they get into the Olympics. And that's the thing that people don't quite understand. The Olympics, it's a whole bunch of individual tournaments for those sports and those events. And so things like the hospitality houses, the fan zones, those are all auxiliary related, but tangentially related. And so I wanted to get tangential into this podcast. I thought if I said that, I'd get some bonus points. I'm just kidding. But anyway, they're related, and I'm gonna do it informally and at least put it maybe in the Build Your Map, or have another app where we'll tell people where those are. And again, there'll be a whole bunch of companies, organizations, LA28 themselves probably promoting some of that. But actually, LA28 probably won't, right? Their job is to put the Olympics on. So they want people to do the fan zones. Where the fan zones, that's where the transportation organizations are going to need the info, because they got to get people to and from fan zones and from and a hospitality house. But even the hospitality houses, then there's a security thing on it, right? It's people are sensitive to, we know where the New Zealanders are going to be. They're going to be in Culver City. We know where the Greeks are going to be, the Denmark and Ireland. Those are the four. And then there's some talk about the other ones. In my story map, I'm only posting the ones when it's official and they kind of have a contract and they kind of say we're going to do it at this facility. If it's just in talks, like I think they said Croatia or something is going to be in El Segundo, but it's not finalized. When it gets finalized, then I'll update my app or whatever. And again, I'm a unofficial. It's all unofficial from official sources.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not this is your personal story map, right? It's not endorsed,
Yeah.
sponsored by any agency whatsoever, but it's got
But
tons of great data. It's like I said,
yeah.
you really did a great job of this one. And it's not
Yeah.
just story map, because you said you've got that builder as well that
Yeah. I got
agencies can use and stuff. So
Yeah, I got Experience Builder is the Build Your Map, and then the schedules, the sports schedule dashboard. Let me go to that really quick, or talk about that really quick. So the concept there was, again, mountain biking's only 2 days, but the concept too is that if you clicked, and let's just say you went to, like, you're working for Long Beach. If I was in Long Beach and I want to say, okay, I got Long Beach, but what's going on in Long Beach on July 12th? And this is actually 2 days before the opening ceremony. So the opening ceremonies are on July 14th. But on the 12th, they're going to have handball and water polo. Okay. On the 13th, they're going to have handball and water polo. On the 14th, nothing. The only thing going on the 14th are the opening ceremonies. And for some reason, in Oklahoma City, they're going to have some canoe slalom. But other than that, nothing. So the idea is this is going to help you plan it. But on the 15th, Long Beach is going to have 10 things going.
oh wow.
So they're going to be really busy the day after the opening ceremonies. And so if you want to be in Long Beach, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So that's kind of the idea of that sports schedule dashboard, because you have to plan for these games spatially, that's GIS, but also temporally, because some things happen. And by the way, the Esri conference usually is this time. So we got to ask Jack,
Oh, that's right.
Do we know when the Esri conference is going to be in 2028? Because the Olympics are going from the 12th to the 30th.
I didn't think about that. You're right.
Yeah. So what they might do, let's say that the stuff July 12th, by the way, I didn't put if it was like a Wednesday or Friday. I think probably the 14th is a Friday. Maybe we'll Google that really quick. July 14th of 2028, because that's what they're doing with these Olympics. Tomorrow, the opening ceremonies for the Winter Olympics, but for 2026 in Milan Cortina. But it started yesterday. They started curling, and today they have some, like, I want to say snowboarding or something today. So you have a couple events before the opening ceremonies. But let's say it. Maybe they do some kind of watch party in San Diego, or maybe one of the preliminary soccer games, because San Diego is going to host that. Maybe Esri can have a party at the conference at Snapdragon, for that.
That'd be
Oh,
nice.
hey, by the way, so I mentioned, Snapdragon is the name of the stadium in San Diego. That gets to naming. So check this out. Let's say you're a GIS guy and you're working on data and you're doing stuff. What do you call your layers, right? You call it whatever it is, right? If it's bus routes, it's bus routes, whatever. Well, when you have venues, I would call the venue name the name of the venue, but Olympic naming rights is kind of tricky. And
Ah,
so they've called things like, so we know crypto.com used to be Staples Center, right? That's LA, it's where the Lakers play, right? That is going to have, well, what are we going to have there? So now, but here's the thing. It's not called crypto in here. It's called the DTLA Arena because crypto.com hasn't done a partnership with the Olympics. If they do and pay some probably million of dollars, then it'll be called crypto.com Arena for artistic gymnastics, boxing finals, and trampoline gymnastics. If not, it's just DTLA Arena. So that's what they're doing. Intuit is an Olympic partner, so it's called the Intuit Dome for basketball.
okay.
But that's what's happened is and so Snapdragon again is San Diego Stadium for the soccer preliminary stages, but it's not called Snapdragon. So I had to choose to make it match. I just go with whatever LA28 says. So my data matches it exactly just to make it easy, but also, and in my story map, I kind of say here and there, I'm like, got, the naming is whatever, and then it's related to the Olympic sponsorship.
That makes
So
sense.
yeah, so right, NBC, they're all for money. So NBC Universal owns Universal Studios. Universal Studios is where the squash is going to be. Squash is one of those 5 sports that was added to LA28. And it's worldwide. People know squash very, it's basically like racquetball, right? Glass
Yeah.
walls. They're going to do it at the Comcast Squash Center at Universal Studios, which doesn't exist. It's going to be Courthouse Square on the back lot. So where they made Back to the Future and a bunch of other movies, they're going to put the court right in the center. I think they got to move a couple trees, and then they're going to build some stands for it. And then there's a metro stop, and then they'll shuttle people somehow to that, or you got to walk.
That is
But
very cool.
it's interesting, right? So some of the names are from that, and some of them are different. Exposition Park Stadium, that's BMO Stadium right now, but BMO doesn't have a partnership, so it might change if and when they get money. So again, as a GIS person, I'm just naming it what LA28 named it, and eventually, hopefully, people know because when that dropped a couple days ago for the soccer, people were already like, there's no San Diego Stadium. It's Snapdragon, and then people were like, no, it's naming rights, and
Yeah,
you
that
do
makes
what you got to
sense.
do.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome, Nick.
yeah,
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of your time here, Nick.
yeah, yeah.
Before I let you go, though, I do want to
Yeah.
ask you if you have any tips, words of advice for listeners out there, anything at all you want to mention.
Sure. So I would say, if there's anything, just do what needs to be done. So like when I made this because it was a gap. Like it didn't exist. And I said, hey, I wanted to be there. Sometimes you got to go outside the job description. Sometimes this is basically like a volunteer kind of passion project. And I would tell any younger folks or anybody, doesn't matter where you are in your life, um, if you see something to do and it interests you, especially if you have a passion for it, go and do it. This is just something, it was fun. I kind of told my wife at some point I probably wouldn't have official role in the Olympics, but I kind of said I kind of want to do something with it, and this is what I want to do. I don't really want to do the day of. I don't want to be in charge of GIS for LA28. God knows that's a stressful job, and it only lasts until the end of that time, right?
Yep.
I got a good gig, but do something that you like. Do something that you want to do, and maybe that there's a need for out there. And I thought there was a need, and so I did it.
That's fantastic, Nick. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Renee.
Thank you for listening to the Bounding Box today. Please subscribe for more content.